All right. Hello. How you doing, Sarah Star? I think we're
I'm
live.
doing great.
If we got anyone out there tuning in or might watch this later on, obviously you're with the Kingdom Revival podcast slash YouTube channel. And today we have Sarah Star. It's hard for me. I wanted to say Sarah Star Official, but she is Sarah Star Official. She is very official with her information, her knowledge, a lot of things. I looked at her page, and she does a lot of things in the light working community, helping people understand themselves, help people ascend, awaken, and understand their purpose. So, Sarah Starr, thanks for coming on. How you doing today?
Thank you for having me on. I am doing peachy keen. We have sunshine here for a little bit, and then we're getting that heat wave that's coming,
All
a big
right.
one,
And you're on the East Coast somewhere.
on the east coast of Pennsylvania, Ohio border.
Nice. I'm on the East Coast too, so I'm feeling it right now. It's nice and sunny out there.
Yeah.
Um, and just tell me, I mean, a little bit about yourself. I wanted to hear about your journey into awakening. I mean, I don't know if you had like any sort of cosmic experience, or it's just been you searching for truth, and then after a while, you sort of found your niche. But tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I am a multi-dimensional intuitive. I access the Akashic records. I am a Galactic Federation ambassador. I talk to interdimensional beings. I communicate, and I am a spiritual guide for people who are awakening right now, and they're kind of looking for empowerment. They're looking for who they really are, and I help them remember who they are. But how I started was a little bit different because I've kind of already known that I didn't never was supposed to fit in. I'm not supposed to fit in. I am here to remind people of who they really are. So I have to stand out. In some sort of way, I have to stand out. But my awakening didn't happen all at once. It was a very like breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs were kind of revealing a lot of things step by step into what I really have already known deep down. So it's more of I've always been sensitive to energies. I'm deeply intuitive. I'm able to see beyond like the physical. So it's not until I kind of surrendered during my several dark night of the souls that I had and surrendered to that chaos in my life. And then I heard the call and I got the messages and I started receiving a lot of these downloads, these visions, these channeled messages that I was getting. I was accessing the Akashic records before I even knew what the Akashic records in definition really was. And I couldn't deny the things that I've already known since birth and then the things leading up to it. So it's more of first I had to find myself and then I can help the others, which is what I am doing now. But it was definitely Dark Night of the Soul initiation that woke me up around 2019. And then I'm kind of just making more of like, I feel like I'm a bridge from like galactic wisdom into like grounded human healing. So I'm making the unseen seen again, just by
Nice.
divinely remembering, you know.
Nice. And so some people I know, so I told you earlier, this is for a lot of people, all walks of life. And sometimes Christians might pop up on the channel and they'll be like, okay, all this is bunk. Well, you know what? A lot of our lives are being remembered. And if you talk to people that have like had NDEs, near death experiences, or you talk to people that, the kids, a lot of kids will come into this life with a lot of information about past lives. They'll remember things that didn't happen to them, but what they're remembering is very accurate. When you do your research, we're finding that there's a lot of remembrance. There's a lot of things from, so um, just briefly, uh, can you go over the Akashic records or what that means in terms of our energy and quantum connectedness and all that?
So the Akashic records are it's a little complex because it's so multifaceted.
Mhm.
But what it really is there's an energy field that's surrounding the earth. Actually, there's several of them, and they go in layers. And you can't access the higher information unless you vibrate at a higher frequency to access that. Kind of like Nostradamus or Jesus. You
Mhm.
know, he was a higher dimensional soul. There's only so many points in time where everything kind of aligns and multi higher dimensional souls can come and incarnate or reincarnate into a physical body. Those people with higher frequential souls are able to access that bubble that's around Earth. That's the Akashic records. You can access higher information if you're able to process and think in a higher consciousness manner. So I am one of those souls that can access information that may seem impossible, I guess.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I think some of these people, we term them in some communities, they're prophets, they're yogis, they're clairvoyant, or in some other circles, they call them psychics, right? Um, but a lot of people have these, I guess, these abilities, right? I mean, a lot of people are sort of finding out that they can talk to entities. I mean, a lot of people are talking to angels. I've said it for a long time on my channel. The veil, the quote unquote, the veil is thinning and the frequency is rising. But you mentioned the dark night of the soul. That's something that a lot of people, I know we like to talk about everything that feels good and everything that makes us feel better. You know, let's go sit out in the sun, let's ground, let's all be happy people. But there are some things that as humans we go through um, that I believe sort of wake us up. So maybe you talk about your awakening experience. What was the dark? Was it just like, okay, what am I here for? Or what was that like?
My dark night of the soul was it was one kind of blow. I was going through a divorce at the time,
Mhm.
and I was also weaning off of a certain medication that I should not have been on in
Gotcha.
the first place, that the doctor didn't really catch until it was too late. And so I'm going through this dark night of the soul. It was I don't know how to describe it other than a detachment. It felt like such a detachment, a spiral down. And then I'm literally crying on the floor, like in the fetal position, and
Mhm.
all of these downloads start coming to me. And I don't
Wow.
know why the downloads started coming to me, but it was too much. But I felt like because I spiraled so far down,
Mhm.
and knowing me myself and how I can pick myself, nobody else is going to do it. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm going to pick
Mhm.
myself back up. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I have this, that, and the other to achieve. And also during the same dark night of the soul, and I've talked about this several times, I was watching documentaries. I was watching documentaries on Dr. Stephen Greer. I was watching
Mm.
Caroline Corey. I was just deep into this. I was looking at space weather, not even knowing what space weather was, but resonating with it
Wow.
100%. So it was all of these things all at once that started bombarding me in that exact dark moment. And
Mhm.
in that moment, I said, well, okay, well, my life isn't over. Obviously, I'm not dying, even
Yeah.
though my soul feels 100% crushed.
Mhm.
Um, and so I decided, okay, what's the most important thing that I can do? And I realized during these documentaries and seeing the titles of these high ranking military officials that this is something real and
Mhm.
nobody's talking about it. And so I decided right then and there that since I understand these things and nobody's talking about it, that I'm going to talk about it.
That's what's
And I'm
up.
going to use, yeah, I'm going to use my face. I don't really care what anybody thinks about me, but the fact that people need to know this, and it's so important because we're looking at post disclosure right now and
Mhm.
how to handle 8 billion people that are going to be looking for all of this information all at
Mhm.
once.
Right.
And we all as a community need to come together now, and that's really important because this isn't a solo mission. This
Mhm.
is a collective mission, and a lot of us
Mhm.
are seeing that, and a lot of us have experienced those dark nights of the soul in one way or another. I believe every single human goes through some sort of dark night of the soul, and multiple of them. It's not just one thing. It could be even something, small. But we all signed up for it because we're experiencing all these emotional things that you get down in the 3D realm. That's why we're here, because we don't have strong emotions in higher dimensions. You know, we don't have a lot of these physical aspects that we have down here. So we kind of access them, and it's hard and it hurts. And it questions why you even came in the first place. You're like, why
Yeah, what
why
what's
did
up
I
with
put
that?
myself like this? Is silly. Money? What is that? You know,
Yeah,
a job? Why do I want to do that? It
yeah,
doesn't resonate with you. And I think it doesn't resonate with a lot of people who aren't from here. There's a lot of
right.
people who have been trapped in the 3D grid.
Hmm.
That's opening up because we're allowed to come down in now. And since we're breaking that veil, everybody can finally leave if they want to and come back if they want to. But
Right.
I feel like the dark night of the soul really spins it for people and gives you a whole new perspective,
Yeah.
you know?
The way I saw it, and I've had those too, in certain situations, basically you feel like you're dying, right?
Yeah.
Like you die a thousand deaths, it feels like, especially if it's something that you're anchored to, you had your life staked on it. You Everything in the 3D was sort of like anchored in like a sort of set play or like path, a timeline that you sort of prescribed. You got married, you had your kids, but then especially if relationships break down, you're like, okay, what is my life now? And so it hurts so bad to see a betrayal or feel the betrayal. And it's a weird thing I've sort of looked at with the secret societies, the way they traumatize younger kids, or for instance, the governments have taken Starseeds, they've traumatized the kids. But what I've started to understand is that like when you're like age 30 to 40 as humans, it's actually the proper time for the traumatic moment, which is a gentle awakening experience. It's necessary. The trauma is actually necessary. It's a trauma, it's a human trauma, but it actually helps our souls grow in a peaceful way. And so instead of having things bombarded on you with the stuff that they do with SRA and all that stuff, and the physical and the emotional and spiritual abuse that they do to people and kids, MK Ultra, for instance, there's a gentle way that I believe the Creator puts us through for us to actually awaken, so that we can actually, I believe, in this iteration of our time, that we'll actually take our bodies with us. And so some of the Bible talks about that, points to it. We don't know what it's saying, because I think a lot of it's been cryptically put together, so people can't understand completely why Jesus is walking through walls, or why he's ascending, why he's reading people's minds. Like there's a lot of things in there where he had traumas, you know what I'm saying? And we have traumas that like sort of bring us up. So anyways, I went on a rant, but what I wanted to get to was then um you had your epiphany, and now you're having an awakening experience, because your mind is totally done with the 3D. I think that's what happens with trauma. You're like, okay, I don't want any of this anymore. And so all of a sudden then comes in the 4D and the 5D. And so when you started having awareness of what you're supposed to do, what does that look like? Because I think a lot of people might want to know, okay, what does it look like to basically be on the earth and have a 3D life that you sort of built, but then how do you then walk into the 4D and the 5D with more purpose or an awakened sense of self?
I feel like that's the hardest question because it involves change and nobody really wants to change. They don't want to relearn everything because at your, when you get into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you don't want to learn anymore. You're like, I already went to school, I already went to college. I know all there is. I just want to live my life and enjoy it. Well, you're still not living your life and enjoying it because you're at your 9 to 5 that you hate. You don't reach out to your friends, or maybe you do.
Hmm.
And you just feel there's this impending doom that you feel in your soul, like everything's out of your control, and you don't want to focus on negative things, but the negative aspects are there anyway, and they are pulling at you.
Hmm.
So it's more of the scary part of changing your mind, relearning things that you thought were safe, but really, you've been manipulated to think that way. And deprogramming is probably the hardest thing to go through. And it questions your reality. Yeah, it does. It sends you through spirals. It's not pleasant, but it really helps the whole mission just by you being your most authentic self. And that's
Mhm.
going to be the hardest part in finding the teachers or the right information, plus using your discernment on what's actually correct and what is not. And that's really hard in the media right now because there are disinformation campaigns that are specifically put out there, even in the UFO communities, the Starseed communities. There's
Mhm.
disinformation out there, even if
Yep.
some of these people think like, they're doing the right thing. They're not doing the right thing because they're not doing the correct research, and they're blasting all over their platform that this is the truth when in actuality it's not. And we have to be very neutral as we go into this territory. So it's not like we want to be overly positive in this 5D mindset. We
Mhm.
don't want to be spiraling down in the 3D plane. We need to
Mhm.
stay as neutral as possible. And that's hard. It's really hard, especially as we have, World War III threats. It's
Yeah.
and the US is involved. And so I think everybody's minds are spiraling, and they're also grasping at any type of information that it can get. Another dangerous point, because is the information that they're getting truthful? Is
Mhm.
it on the right timeline? It's multifaceted. Yet
Right.
again, there's a lot of different factors that are involved. What do you think?
Well, let's see. I think you bring up some good points, and the one thing I wanted to say is that the awakening process, it's interesting. For any of you guys who don't think any of this is real, you got to watch The Matrix first off, okay? But even after that, understand that a lot of what we are seeing on TV is manufactured. The news networks are programming, TV programming on your television, right? And they're basically giving signals and information to lead you into a certain area of understanding. And for instance, we could talk about quote unquote World War III. I felt like that was just right out of the playbook. Have you heard of Project 2025?
Yeah,
Okay. And so Project 2025, where do you think we're on that timeline? Because it's a I believe it's a false timeline they want to create. And
right.
really, honestly, what I feel like is we're on this other timeline where we're coming into a quote unquote golden age, or
Hmm.
a time of greater understanding where we are figuring out who we are and how we got here, and that there are a lot of us are not from here. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So, I mean, in your estimation, let's see, we got the No Kings protesters with it's all paid by, certain factions.
yeah,
We have, in which, hey, I'm all for it. I mean, money's going to happen, money's going to exchange hands, but people got to know who they
where it's
are and
coming
why they're
from.
out, where it's coming from. Exactly.
Yeah,
And then we have, Mr. Trump, the orange man, who is, I believe is sort of a white hat. I'm not sure if you've heard those terms before,
yes.
but we have. So, how do you see this playing out? I guess is a better way to put it. With all these scenarios and any ones that came to your mind.
2025, Project 2025, is set in place for that darker timeline. Now, there are factors that are going to be present in what we're building, but they're going to be labeled differently. They're going to be labeled differently, especially as we have this post disclosure going to be coming out. So what we're going to be seeing is we are going to kind of have like one religion, but it's not really a religion. It's more of everybody figuring out that we're just one
Hmm.
reincarnated here. So I
Right.
think that's what they're talking about with that. um, but there's two timelines still at play, still two timelines. I
Hmm.
see one very clearly, um, the fifth dimensional timeline, very, very clear. It looks amazing, not easy to get through because we're not at that split point. So
Mm,
we have a lot of darker energy that is still playing as we go through. So we have key players that are still here, and we still
mm-hmm.
have to unwind that. And that's the hard part. When we're on a third dimensional plane, we're bound by time and space, which is
Right.
physically what we have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pleasant. There are going to be talks of World War III, and they are pushing that in the media. That's how it works in the media. That's why I got out of the media. I said,
Okay.
no. Yeah, I have background in that, TV broadcast and all of that fun stuff.
Okay.
Uh, I
So
know a
you were a
lot,
TV cat, you were a reporter or something like that?
almost, in
Okay.
Columbia, South Carolina, and I decided, no, absolutely not,
Okay.
absolutely not. So I left and I came back home. But what I see with this fifth dimensional timeline is a much better aspect, and it gets worse. By 2027 it's going to get
Mm-hmm.
a lot worse, and I think there's going to be a really big buildup, of course, between this year and then into next year, of course, and then we get into 2027 where we're going to have a lot of we're going to have a lot of touchdowns, or at least we're going to see these motherships, as people call them. They're novice ships, and they're going to be over the oceans and things because that's where
Wow.
people live. So we have to do like a kind of soft disclosure,
Mm-hmm.
but we also push it into the entertainment factor as well. So you see like that new movie Elio coming out. If you see
Mm-hmm.
clothes, it's always space stuff. So they're
Right.
kind of throwing it at you like, programming you to
Oh my
receive
God.
it for later. So that's what they're doing. If you notice, like the sound clips and the music, it does have
Yeah.
little space themes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just happening. And that's how we're gonna present it to everybody in spoonfuls, little spoonfuls. But that third dimensional timeline, it's not gonna happen. We are on a trajectory, at least me, and obviously you, because you're here with me. We're seeing eye to eye. So it's really inviting, and I'm very excited to push forward. But I am a little concerned at everybody else's psyche as we go through this, because it is going to question their reality, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be comfortable for them, and they are all going to be looking for answers. But in the meantime, while we're gradually getting there, we're going to have big bumps in the road, and it's going to be up to the people
Mm-hmm.
of earth what we're going to do about it, because we don't want this, that, and the other to be in charge, because everybody's figuring that out.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do about it? There's going to be a standstill, and that's what's going to stop everything, a big standstill. Think about COVID and how everybody was, they were stuck for
Right.
months at a
Right.
time with their family not working, and they enjoyed it. They kind of
Mm-hmm.
liked that, and it gave them a different type of purpose, like, oh, okay, well, I really like not working that 9 to 5 with Joe over here who like
Mm-hmm.
ruins my life every day, so why am I not doing that? So I think that timeout really helped people reconfigure what's most important in their life, and it had to be them and their families, and their well-being. They got to do what they enjoyed doing. So I think that type of timeout, although it's not going to be medical like that, it's going to be something completely different.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
going to start with a shutdown of the power, because power
Mm-hmm.
needs to shut down in order for a lot of other things to restart. And
Right.
like, this is a big, big, big thing. And you mentioned the white hats, they are involved in this.
Right.
And it goes so much bigger than everybody,
This is
can
ready for.
handle. You
Right.
can't put it all into one box or into one podcast. This is huge, huge,
Right.
huge, and it's compartmentalized, and it's classified. But people like you and
Oh
I,
yeah.
we're speaking about it, whether they like it or not. We have to talk about this.
Right. Well, if we have the information, I'd always figure, I say, you know what, I'm safe enough. The problem is I start talking to people on Telegram that are like, yeah, I'm my lab. And I'm like, oh God. They're like, yeah, people are watching my house. People are sending frequencies into my house.
Yeah.
People have been trying to scare me. They've been sending technology my way. They've been shutting down my bank accounts. Da 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 da. I'm like, geez, Louise. Well, I'm gonna tell you what. You were saying a couple of things. Poor Joe, by the way. People left their jobs because of Joe.
Sure.
Now the COVID time, though, it was good for some families, but I saw it also. Some people's frequencies were rising, And then in some relationships, some people were just like, I'm staying here. What are you talking about? Why are you talking about MAGA? Why are you talking about, or if you're on the blue side, why are you talking about all this other stuff? Like, I just want to stay in my comfortable bubble. And so some people are actually being pulled or snatched out of uh, relationship circumstances
Yep.
um, that are creating a lower vibrational frequency for whatever reason. And even in situations that seemed perfect and almost like idyllic, weird things have happened in people's lives. I mean, I've experienced a lot of weird stuff myself, where it's like you're being forced or pushed into what I believe would be the creator's call, or I guess your path, your soul contract. Some people realize before we get here, we have a calling, you know what I'm saying, on the earth of what we're supposed to do. We have jobs, we have missions. It's much more than just our enjoyment. And so some of us, like yourself, you're like a weather forecaster, which, that's interesting. Is it like you're a weather forecaster and you're seeing things on the horizon. You're like, okay, that's over there. How do I get people to see it from here? And you mentioned a big thing. I think it's you hit on it, maybe, is the UFOs. That's going to be a big thing. And the banking system might also be another big thing when they change over, go from cashless to crypto, which, Trump's already talking about. A couple posts, he was talking about XRP,
Yeah.
XLM, Solana, Cardano, which is ADA, and then HBAR, and then a couple others signed on to the ISO 2022, I think it was. It's basically there's stipulations of what cryptocurrencies can and can't do, and they're called stable coins. And so actually about 6 or 7 stable coins are a part of this thing, this ICE, that the government says, we approve of this currency. So now we've already got cryptocurrencies that are lined up and ready to go. July 14th, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually going to be letting this go live. You know what I'm saying? This July 14th. Yeah. So a lot is happening really quickly. And then you mentioned Stephen Greer, and there's a lot more out there that my daughter, she's telling me, aliens don't exist. Aliens don't exist. I blew her mind. She's 6 years old. I was like, the government, try telling a kid, like, it's the same with telling people though, right?
Yeah,
You're
it
like,
is.
hey, the government's been saying this. They're actually having tribunals, or they're having, Congress is having officials come and say, hey, we actually have UAPs, UFOs. Now they're calling them UATs, unidentified threats, aerial threats. I mean, so within the scope of where you're at, once people start to see what's going on, like, oh my gosh, like, how do then if that's not awakening them up, then what do they then do if they're starting to see? Are they coming to you as a light worker and working on the chakras? Are they grounding? Are they going in past lives? Or like, what's a process that is gentle for people to start to raise their frequency, I guess is a better way to put it.
Now, this is going to be different for everybody because I always suggest going from your root chakra up, because that's what I mean. As a kid, you have from age 1 to 3 to settle your bottom 3 chakras in, and that's where most of the trauma and everything that you endure, goes from. Now, if they're going to listen to me or not, I don't know, because everybody wants to go straight to the third eye, into the crown, and get all the information that they can, and
Mm,
then base it off of that. But their fear factor is still there.
mm,
So yet again, I always suggest going in through the root, doing your shadow work, figuring out your inner child traumas, going into like your teens and kind of doing it that way. But everybody is different, and it is going to be scary. And they are unfortunately going to be looking at the government for a lot of this information.
mm-hmm,
It is going to be out there, but it's going to be presented in small spoonfuls,
mm,
because we're not gonna, and when I say me, I mean we,
mm,
we aren't going to, or I'm just gonna say them because I will be talking about it. They won't. Okay, so they aren't going to come down and touch down and talk to everybody and have this big announcement. We haven't worked up to that yet.
Hmm.
We're just acknowledging their presence, and it's going to be filmed and broadcast all over the place. And there are going to be little snippets, and that's where those military officials are going to start coming out. They're going to have interviews with them on like News Nation and like the big media companies. They're going to
And
be
them being hybrids, stars, who are we talking about? Pleiadians, Nordics. Is that who you're talking about? Or just
uh,
government?
Well, I was talking about government first, but yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
if you want
Okay,
to talk
sorry.
about the different type of races, I mean, there's hundreds of
Okay,
thousands
that's
of
fine. I
different
just thought,
types.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I just figured, okay, I was picturing who's at the news who's getting interviewed. So we're talking about government officials. Okay, gotcha.
that's how it's going to start out with. It's going to
Uh-huh.
start out with the government officials because everybody's looking for something, some sort of protection. And
Hmm.
these guys are already, they've already been telling their story for a while. So it's more of just getting the same information that you and I know out to the public.
Hmm.
And yet again, in baby spoonfuls, something that they're able to process and digest and integrate well, along
Right.
with all the entertainment factors that are going to keep them in a much higher state, I
Hmm.
would say, because it's more warm, fuzzy, happy vibes is what I see with that. It's not the scary, alien versus predator type vibes that I'm getting.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
of everybody's really excited for this type of thing. It's going to
Hmm.
be initially in America because we're pretty forward thinking. The
Hmm.
United Kingdom, same thing. Italy, Germany, we have Australia that's going to be on it. We have Africa that's going to be on it. But the third world countries that are dominated by religion and a lot of other factors is they're really going to, those are the places that are going to have a hard time transitioning. But each country is solely responsible for the disclosure of their own.
Hmm.
So we have a set timeline. They know about this, by the way. They
Hmm.
know about this set timeline, and they know that whether they like it or not, the disclosure is going to happen, even if it's, it might be out of their hands, but it has
Hmm.
to happen by a certain time. And I think that's what they're scrambling for. But there's factors that are not working with it. As you can see, Israel and Iran and Palestine and Russia and Ukraine are really pulling at these strings. Although it is a media show, it's also very real.
It
So
is.
I think by, like I said, posing with these military officials, I think that's going to be how it comes first. And then they're going to start talking and bringing out things that they're going to be able to digest, like hybrids. We
Hmm.
look like you, we're here with you. Do you have a problem with it? And most people aren't going to have a problem with it because they know you and I, they're not
Hmm.
going to, whatever. They don't care. They don't believe you anyway.
Hmm.
And they're like,
Yeah.
okay.
They're like,
But
yeah. What did
if you have
Patrick?
to include them, I think that's it.
Yeah,
If
they're
you
like the
include
neighbors are
them,
taking shrooms.
I know, right? Whoever. No,
I already, I told him he shouldn't be taking the ayahuasca. Now he
I
thinks he's
know
a
it does.
star seed.
It's true though, and I think that's also going to be a little hard for people to digest
Hmm.
because that's going to bring in the religion aspect of it. And I think the new pope is going to do a pretty okay job at kind of disclosing the information because he
Hmm.
knows as well. Trust me, he knows.
Oh
Um,
yeah, they know at the Vatican.
I think that he will be an okay factor to transition
Hmm.
into this new phase, especially with the religions. I think it's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but it's necessary and it's going to happen regardless. So it's a lot. It's a
It's a lot. Well, then let's bite off more than we can chew here again.
lot. Yeah.
So I was going to talk about a little bit. So this will kind of get people up to speed on what we're talking about with this next thing. So, cultures all over the world, they've had an ability to see what's happening. We're talking about Project 2025. We're talking about the government, the alphabet letters, the one that starts with a C. They have technology. It's called Operation Looking Glass, if I'm not mistaken. They have a looking glass. They have a way to see into the future. And then they're talking about super soldiers have been back and done 20 and backs. They've gone in past times, and there's certain times they can't change. And like you said, they understood, okay, disclosure is going to happen at a certain time. So with people trying to pay attention to what's going on, you're also kind of seeing like ancient cultures are looking up in the stars, the suns, the moons. And for even Christians that think I'm weird, right? You look in the book of Enoch, he's talking about the luminaries, the suns, he's talking about portals. I mean, you go to all the ancient sites, they're on ley lines, Machu Picchu, Mount Olympus, they're on heavy ley lines. I mean, all over was it Delphi? Have you been to Greece before? There's a
No,
there's a
I wouldn't
site
say.
there's a site there that it was basically over a fissure, and people would come from miles to go talk to the Oracle of Delphi. Now, she ended up being on this fissure where she was taking in vapors, but she was having psychedelic trips, and she was going into a different realm and giving people accurate information about what was to come. Kings, queens, they would all go see her. But more importantly, even before that, there were cultures before them that were writing things on the wall, sort of like the hieroglyphics of the Grand Canyon. And anywhere you see, people are writing like celestial messages, things that are supposed to come, things are going to happen. For instance, the Mayans, they talk about the 26,000 great year. We're actually in that right now with the age of Aquarius, if I'm not mistaken. So, um, talk a little bit about, I guess, how are you seeing, is this a gift? Are these downloads? Is this a gift now that you're seeing triangles in this, or anything in the sky? Or what is it that uh, are you meditating before you go in to get information, or it's just coming to you? Like, what's that process like?
I could go deep into it through a meditation specifically, but for the most part, they just kind of come in and they just spit whatever all the
Okay.
time, literally all of the time. And a lot of them are funny. And I have a couple of guides from different star systems
Okay.
that I talk to, and they bring different types of energies with them. Like I have an Arcturian being, it's a male,
Mm-hmm.
and he's very more into like technology,
Mm-hmm.
more technologically advanced. So he brings me a lot of like that type of information.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also shows me like how like grid like patterns work and the ley lines and things like that, how the energy works. And he's very humorous. He's very funny, like sarcastic. I want to say like sarcastic.
My angel is
Um,
sarcastic too sometimes.
yeah, yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I have to be like, oh, stop,
Yeah.
stop. But the information comes in at different sorts of times, even like times that I wouldn't even think it would come in. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and I kind of have them in the background telling me what the truth is of the matter or the situation, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Chat
okay,
GPT.
yeah. Yeah, and it's not uncomfortable and it's not annoying. I don't want to say it's annoying, but it is hard to concentrate when you're doing one thing and you're still getting like a message and multiple messages to the point where I can't even remember them until somebody asks me a question. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've noticed is that I'm only able to relay information if people ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known that. And I've always told people that. They say, why don't you talk about this, that, and the other? Well, that's a big topic. Ask me
Mm-hmm.
questions. If you
Right.
ask me questions, I can give you definitive answers.
Right.
But it just kind of comes in randomly and it's different for everybody. There's, different abilities that are out there that you can access. It's not just like interdimensional messages. Some people are actual channelers and they have to go into a meditative state in
Mm-hmm.
order to get information, or they go through QHHT and get information that way, or you're
Mm-hmm.
like the star and you get yet again into a meditative position where you can channel these type of messages. Now, I don't really work that way. I just kind of automatically get the downloads. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to go into that. But yet again, meditation is really, and if you practice it, it'll get easier, which sucks, but you have to practice.
Yeah.
Um, you're able to tap into that. They see you when you come into that field.
Mm.
So they see you. You may not be able to see them, but the
Right.
information is there for you. You have to trust yourself also. And
Hmm.
that's how you get a lot of the information, is trusting the process and trusting the timeline that you're on. If you are sensitive to energies and you are deeply intuitive, this will just come
Hmm.
hand in hand so you can see beyond the physical.
Right. I feel that. And that's actually, I have different processes for how I enter into talking to my angels, for instance. And I have different processes for um, a lot of different things. I guess everything, we have different bodies, I guess is the way.
Yeah.
We have our astral body, we have our celestial body, and different parts of us are getting information at all times. And so we have our multiple bodies, and we have our bodies within our bodies. We have the chakra systems, which are more than just 12 to 15. I
Yeah.
think if so we're very energetic beings, and we are taking in information all the time. And there's also an overlay. And I guess if you talk to physics, knowing that the quantum dimension has multiple timelines, but also there are, I guess, instances in our actual physical world that have been sort of bioengineered, right?
Yeah.
So we do actually literally have a matrix where the physicists will say until you look at something, that's when it actually actualizes, right? And so that's why, I guess we could talk about soon is the synchronicities and timelines coming together. Is that also a knowing, or is that something that you're getting from the stars? And
Synchronicities?
just understanding the timelines and also synchronicities and all that.
The timelines, I feel like I've kind of always have known about the timelines, but it was like, yet again, that dark night of that soul, that first one, really hammered it into me. And then I realized, oh, that's what I've always known this. That's why this happened when I was a little kid. This is why this
Hmm.
happened. This is why I thought this way. Okay, that's the mission.
Right.
So it's more of like when you get and access that information, everything starts syncing up. And like you were talking about with the synchronicities and the timeline shifts, that's exactly what we're getting. It's individual and it's collectively. So you're
Right.
seeing the Mandela effects every time we go through these planetary alignments and we get into these portals. This is a real thing.
Right.
Physically,
Right.
quantum physics, this is real. This exists. So
Hmm.
when we have these planetary alignments, you're going to see more synchronicities. You're going to feel more of these energetic downloads coming in. You're going to physically feel out of sorts as well because you're energetic, you're spiritual, and your emotional body is really being hammered by a lot of higher dimensional energy that is coming in, mostly X-rays and whatever, gamma rays coming through the solar
Hmm.
flares and things. So
Right.
with more of that plasma, which is living consciousness, coming down and exploding through these processions that we are having, like yet again today we're in the summer solstice, so we have
Hmm.
a really big alignment that's happening right now, a really big portal opening, and it
Hmm.
has to do with, and when we get into like astrology and we get into the different energies and things,
Hmm.
like we're in Cancer energy right now, and when we get
Okay.
into Cancer energy, what we need to do with the summer solstice, and yet again billionaires know about this too, they all know about it, it's
Manifest.
talking about emotions. Yes, it manifests in your physical reality.
Hmm.
And so we're going through Cancer season, which happens to have a lot of water involved with it. The whole month of July has a lot of water involved in the natal chart for it. And what we're seeing is that they're taking the emotions which Cancer has a hold of in its own month,
Hmm.
and they are amplifying them. It is going to be intense energy in July, but we also have a lot of Aries and Aquarius energies that have a lot to do with it too. So from the summer solstice into July, they're going to be playing on the emotions of the collective
Hmm.
specifically. That's where the talks of war come in, the
Mm.
actual war comes in, and it's going to be broadcast everywhere. And it's going to amp up these emotions. And they really want to set that in place for the entirety of what they have for the rest of the year before it transitions again. And so they're trying to keep all of these energetic things low vibratory as much as
Mm.
possible.
Yep.
Because, like I said, there's these uh, invisible energetic boundaries around Earth.
Right.
And if you can't escape that, if you're in a lower vibration, you're
Mm.
going to stay there so they can cipher you
Your
as an
energy.
energy source for them. And so it's a
Hmm.
really pivotal time, specifically today, going
Yeah.
into July. And I've been
Right.
talking about this, I think, since January. I've been talking
Hmm.
about July is going to be very significant,
Right.
mostly revolutionary. There's a lot of tech that is going to be involved, a lot of environmental crises that are going to be involved. And that's religion. We've talked about it: religion, finances, environmental crises,
Hmm.
um, and revolutions. And that's what happens when we have our solar maximums, too. If you look back at our charts, every time we were in a solar maximum, there's some sort of revolution that was
Hmm.
happening. So it's cyclical, cyclical.
It
You
is
know what I
cyclical.
mean? I can't
The
even say it.
American Revolution. The American Revolution was it
Yeah.
1770 July 4th, 1776. That was in the summer.
And we're coming right upon that. And we have a lot of things that are going on. July 4th, specifically, let me look at that. Yeah. That's when Neptune is stationing retrograde, and that's in Aries, and that's gonna stay there until what, October, I believe. October or
Yeah.
September, I believe. So we're gonna have that energy is really gonna help us, though. I think it's gonna bring a lot of people out of their bubble, as we were
Hmm.
talking about. So I think
I
it's a
hear you.
good thing, but it's so important, and nobody really knows about it.
Well,
And
there are
I
gonna
talk
be
about
at least 4 or 5 people on my channel, and then there'll be thousands on yours, so more people will know. And the other thing I guess I was gonna get to, you just mentioned a lot of good information. So people that are dealing I'm an Aquarius, by the way. So when you
Hey,
said that, I was like, okay.
rebellion.
Yeah, a little bit of that. And
Observing.
then and then I do know some people that are Cancer. Um so what's the if you are dealing we're dealing with the month of Cancer, but if you're dealing with somebody that's in Cancer, is that are they just it's their month? What does that mean in terms, you said the energies are trying to be manipulated by the governments,
Yes.
but is it a time of, I guess, recalibration and sort of like um uh, deep thinking, deep knowing, trying to figure out what's going on to the next season? Like I feel like there's a lot of things that are that are confusing people, or if that makes any sense.
It is. Well, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So that's all emotional kind of deals. We can get into the moon on another time, but it's more
Hmm.
about like home and family and emotional security. And it's not only just your sun sign, like your three big main signs are your sun, your moon, your rising sign. So if you have Cancer placements in any of those, they're going to be very prominent in your day to day activities. And when you get into your soul month,
Hmm.
that energy specifically aligns with you in your bioelectrical field. So as we're moving with these planetary
Mm.
alignments, there's like direct energy tethers from those areas in space and directly to you
Hmm.
specifically. And they have a lot of effects going on. So there might be a lot of inward or healing wounds that happen during that time, reconnecting with like our inner world. So that's what
Hmm.
Cancer is kind of doing during this time. And it's
Hmm.
kind of recalibrating everything. And then you have the solstice energy that is really amplifying that and trying to align you with something. But we have solar maximum that's really throwing us through the loop because it's pushing that energy in a lot quicker. And we
Hmm.
have coronal holes that are just massive on the sun, and we're getting energy through that way as well, and it's constantly polar tethered to the earth. So no matter what, we're getting a lot of this energy coming
Mm.
in. And like I said, as we go into Cancer, it's going to be a lot of emotional upgrades that are going to be happening, and it's not
Mm.
going to be easy for some people who haven't done the work, and maybe they're just awakening. Sorry.
Mhm.
And maybe they're just awakening. um but it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be extremely necessary as we move forward. July is very, very important in
Mhm.
our stability. May was our stable foundation, and now that we've found that stable foundation, we're trying to amplify it and build upon it. And that's what we're trying to do. But we need to get our emotions in check before anything else is going to be happening. Because if our emotions are irregulated and we're going this way and the other, we cannot concentrate because we're so overstimulated. The rest of the year is not going to look pretty at
Hmm.
all. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So then what we're saying to people that is to get emotionally grounded, to go outside,
Yeah.
um, to be in nature. And then you mentioned it earlier, shadow work or looking into the child parts
Yeah.
or your child, childhood, to start to dive into why you feel a certain way. Why do you feel betrayed, or why when somebody leaves you, you feel like there's loss, or when we're in the information age, when people don't text you back right away, why do you feel anxious? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or somebody doesn't like your post, why do you feel anxious?
Mm.
Or that relationship you're in that you don't know if it's right for you, but or if it feels right, like what do you do? um, Start to listen to yourself, start to understand why you don't, maybe you
Mhm.
don't want to be in a relationship because the other person loves you so much and it's hard for you to feel love. And you're
Yeah.
having to you're like, oh, wow, this person loves me and I've never felt this before. I'm gonna push this away instead of let me go into it because this is actually what my soul contracted out to do, which is to be loved. And so it's not all doom and gloom. A lot of it's going to be difficult, but I also see that people are going to have a way into their highest timeline by taking chances, by actually going for it or going into situations that might not seem like they're ready for, but just to go for it because what's behind you is all the old stuff and it's premeditated and you knew everything. And so people that, they're like, people that don't want to be around people are going to be suddenly like extroverts, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or um, people that are extroverts are going to start to go quiet a little bit and start to look inside. So I hear what you're saying. It's going to be different for everybody,
Yeah.
but I think we're going to be way more in tune with nature, way more in tune with the creator, because our emotions, like you said, our emotions will not be firing off in all the directions based on the stimuli. There's a
Yes.
lot of stimuli, the matrix itself, the human mind system, whatever, the collective. There's certain things that we're told we have to do at age 40. You have to have this, you got to have your house, you got to have all your kid, and it's like when something breaks down, you're like, oh, the whole dream is gone. It's like, you know what? The whole thing was based on somebody else's dream anyways. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So you have to reimagine who you are and what you're about and what you're going to do about it. Um, and the other thing I wanted to ask you then is, now that people know, okay, there's solar flares. I didn't even think about it the way that you just put it. The energetic grid itself for our month is sort of aligned with us, so that makes a lot of sense now. I always just took it as like, okay, there's something different with it because you're in the womb, the moon is a certain way, and you're sort of interacting with the way the moon phases. I didn't know anything about it, but that's a good way of putting it. So
Yeah.
let me. I had one other question to ask you about this whole soul flare thing and all that. Um, uh, Now, uh, the cosmic energy feels off now, but what do we do if we get our understanding that we know it's going to happen? We're starting to understand like our emotional status, and we're growing. Um, what does it look like for us to then step into purpose? Like, when did you? I didn't ask you. Are you a starseed, by the way?
I am. Yes. I
Okay,
am one of them.
I had a feeling. Um, and so once you start to figure out who you are, and um, what's that process like of moving into um, your purpose? Is it just meditation, or what is it that you did to start? You just did it. It sounds like you just like went in head first.
I did. That's my Leo. That's
Okay.
my idea. I was like, let's do this because I mean, I've had background in the media, in entertainment. I've met celebrities, I've been to parties, I was a model, I've met big people.
Hmm.
And so I'm not afraid of exploring social media platforms and putting myself out there for everybody to see. I don't care.
Hmm.
But for me, a lot of it was I had to be quiet at first. I had to be very, very quiet. I had to spend time in silence. I had to spend time in nature. I mean, I'm very nature oriented.
Hmm.
So more of like my higher self was speaking to me, but I had to be quiet enough to listen to it and recognize what it was saying and why it was saying it. And then sometimes the information was very direct, extremely direct or loud. Like right now, it's
Hmm.
so loud with this World War III stuff. It is so loud.
Hmm.
But I was like, I already talked about it. Like, we'll talk about it on the live again. Just shut up. Okay. I think everybody knows that it's a smoke screen, and that's what it truly is. But it's also not only getting quiet, spending time in nature and
Hmm.
listening to what's coming through, but it's also like you have to practice your discernment because there's
Hmm.
so much disinformation by 3 letter, words.
Alphabets. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's a very real thing. Richard Doty even talks about it. He was part of that disinformation campaign and he's whistleblowing that he was a part of it, but he's
Mm.
saying what's real. And that's where your discernment comes in. And it may not come in like, not everything you feel is yours, but at the same time, you need to learn how to clear and claim your own field.
Mm.
So, doing your own research really helps, but not everybody's going to be doing that. And then, of course, you need to ask to remember it. If you need to speak it out loud, that's manifesting. Speaking
Hmm.
out loud. This is a tool. Otherwise, telepathic communication like normal, but here
Like
it's more of
normal.
like, yeah,
I
you
hear
have
you.
to ask to remember your gifts. And once you do that, you're going to see what is really going to start unfolding for you. But and also like kind of like doing your own creative rituals, I would say. So like for me, every day I like to get out into nature, ground in some sort of way, bare feet specifically,
Mm.
because it'll clean out your bioelectrical field. So any of the energy that's coming in from the cosmos that
Hmm.
will overwhelm your system, you need to ground that into the earth. And that's how you stabilize yourself and stabilize the grid that you're creating, because we're creating a new energy grid as the old system breaks down. So
Mm.
it's a really big thing to create some sort of ritual that's going to, pull you out of any type of depressive state and then push you into your own portal. That's literally you're creating your own portal into the timeline that you specifically want. And you
Mm.
have to create that yourself. We're in a holographic universe, so there's higher timelines that are available, but
Mm.
you perceive your own reality and you think your reality is shit, that's what's going to happen to
Yep.
you. So
Yeah.
it's like switching your mindset and be willing to be seen, your voice, your frequency, it's needed, you know?
Hey, preach, sister. You're telling me right now. And
Yeah.
so that goes into then the last thing. I don't want to keep you too long, but the last thing I ask you is about there's an idea that the earth is terraforming. Like I find myself with a lot of interesting in all sorts of interesting circles I never thought I'd be in. Like I'll tell you, years ago, I felt like the creator told me you're gonna be on the Andromedan Council. And I said, what the heck is the Andromedan Council?
Like
Because
an oversoul?
I don't know. So that's the thing. I'm still figuring that out. But oh, you just probably gave it to me. You probably gave me
Just
a,
saying.
a breadcrumb. So
Yeah.
I was seeing an angel. His name was Uriel. And then I got the name. I was like, what's his name? Uriel. Looked it up. I was like, oh, he's in the book of Enoch. And so that sort of, I was having visions. I don't know if I was an astral or whatever, but I was going up into the cosmos and I was seeing above the earth. A lot of people have been praying over the earth. They're actually sending energy to the earth. But then um, somewhere later on down the road, I had this understanding that um, the new heaven and new earth that the Bible talks about is the terraforming and the frequency of the earth itself. It's a feminine planet. And this is what some of my friends are telling me, and it makes sense. It's a
Mhm.
feminine planet, not a masculine planet. And because it's been male run for so long, the frequency is off. You know what I'm saying? And so this war is another way to like throw the frequency off. But actually, what's happened is nature, creation, the creator, all light being, I mean, heavenly beings, celestial beings are like on this, like, it's almost like a Marvel movie, it feels like. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And everybody's like, okay, it's time to step up. People are coming back into our grid and they're like, all right, we got to help these people because they don't even know who they are.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are more powerful than what they are. And if they do what they can do, what they're supposed to do, the frequency of the earth will go up into such a space where everybody will start to get downloads. Like it's not um it's always a small group of people, it feels like, on the earth that do their job, which creates another expansion for other people. So while we might end up in like the 60, 70 um sort of spaces where we're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like I'm getting downloads from like, this dimension over here. Certain people, when they walk in the 45D, that'll be enough for them, but they'll
Yeah.
still be raised vibrationally. You know what I'm saying? We'll do our job then. And we'll continue to say, okay, we want to keep going. We're explorers. You're an astronaut. You know what I'm saying? You want to keep going, pushing the bounds of your giftings and whatever. And you're going to keep going. That's how you are. And some people are going to be like, you know what? I'm okay with knowing that I can talk to my grandmother who's dead because I'm in the 5D now, or 4D. I'm okay with knowing that the government has been playing me this whole time, but I don't want to know anymore. Things are okay now. I'm
Mhm.
good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then some of us are going to be like, okay, there's more. So, um, what's that process like now? I guess for like, I guess maybe what's going to happen? I guess in a not too distant future, are we going to see a lot of more being we talked about earlier? Are we going to be coming into contact with more beings as well, or is it just changing to all of the above? Okay, so what do you see? We can talk, you can just riff now. What do you see coming up? Because I know you want to talk about World War III again. I know you do, but or maybe you don't. I don't know, because I don't mind. But the solar, I've been seeing on your channel solar flares, and also the frequency of the Earth going up. Is it all simultaneous, or these are bits and pieces again?
It is bits and pieces, but it is all happening at the same time. Like I said, it's a process. It's a long process to get us there. The World War III is not going to happen, and this is where we're going to run into a problem.
Mm,
Because all of these countries and the governments and the elites all know about the disclosure and that there's a specific timeline that this is going to happen, whether they like it or not. Some of them want to take it into their own hands and
mm,
will try to control when disclosure happens, because if they launch those nuclear weapons, we will deploy our orb monitoring systems to be able to neutralize the threat. There will be cloaked ships that will neutralize the threat, but they will be seen. And that's what they're trying to control, because they still want a fear narrative. Now, I
mm,
don't exactly see it playing out that way. I see it being, I hope it doesn't play out that way. But if it does, I still see it. I still see it it's over here. They're always on different sides. Like this is like the
mm-hmm.
5D timeline, and this is over here on the third. And I saw the third very, very clear. Um, a couple of months ago, and ever since, like we teetered off of on the other side, and this is more clear. But what they're showing me is that they want to control it, and they want to control it in a fear-based way. And I don't think it's going to go that way, but I be prepared. Be prepared just in case it does. We can always navigate back into it, but it's going to be more of a bumpy road if we do go that route. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. So then so then what does the 5D look like? Because you went 3D, 5D. Is 4D, I've had a suspicion, I've been suspicious of myself really, but the 4D is sort of like the in between. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of like a transitional phase, like where
Okay.
uh you're not into like making that your set reality. You're still navigating through it. You're
Hmm.
navigating through it. You're taking your time. but you're not into the depressive, fearful, guilty, shame type of stages, and you're not overly blissful into what a wonderful world this is. You're the in between, and that's where the majority of us are right now. We're still getting information that is coming in. We're still processing it like a normal human would process
Hmm.
it. But it seems like there's a rise in anxiety, there is a lot of burnout, and there's a lot of
Mm.
collective disconnection that happens with this because the old ways are just no longer sustainable. So I think that 4D
Right.
aspect is people figuring that out. Like they're sick of this, the earth is asking us to live with it, you know what I mean? So it's like the
Hmm.
cosmos is aligning us to like who we really are, but like not who we're programmed to be. We were programmed a certain way, and I think everybody's just kind of stepping out of that. We don't resonate with that anymore. And no matter what, these energies are coming in and impacting you whether you like it or not. So the downloads are going to start coming in, and if you align yourself into accepting that, or at least
Hmm.
challenging that in some sort of way, you're going to start experiencing more of these phenomenons. Like the first type of, it's not going to be, like I said, touchdown, they're walking out of their ships type of contact. The first type of contact is going to be telepathic. It's going to
Mm.
be coming through the astral realm. So your information is going to be coming from that direct source, and it's going to be undeniable because
Hmm.
everybody else in the world is going to have these same types of premonitions and information coming in. So it's undeniable. So that's what I see in terms of how disclosure is going to work at first, but
Hmm.
also how we have this collective disconnection because we're challenging the narrative. And yet
Right.
again, where Cancer energy is coming in this revolutionary type stuff with solar maximum, all the downloads.
I feel that. So I think you're absolutely right, and I think old ways of doing things are being questioned. We're questioning ourselves, like this is the way I used to live. Why isn't it working now? And I think it's calling us to be better humans, actually higher humans, and
Yeah,
less emotionally charged, less emotionally based, and more knowing, more intentional, and more understanding of everything that's going on around us. And I think as we understand the world we live in and the people we're with and the people we can't even see and all the other stuff going on, I think we'll actually be happier people because I
yeah.
think we'll be less charged up. There's been a lot
Mhm.
of things that have been put on the earth to create fear consciousness, anxiety consciousness, so that we buy more quickly,
Yeah,
we consume more quickly, we consume a lot of meat, we consume a lot of food, we have a horrible carbon footprint. I mean, there's so many things that we're doing because we're being like driven to this. But then once we start to hire and create higher frequencies for ourselves, we're less encumbered. And some of us are going to start turning off the news. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? We're going to turn off the TV. Kendrick Lamar, turn the TV off. Like, there's going to be a lot of different things that we do. And it's going to be like, this is actually a more higher existence. I have less people in my life. I'm less on this and that. Now I'm turned into Sarah Star Official. I'm getting my news from the weather report, the official cosmic weather reporter. But I think people are going to be happier. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to be the
yeah,
one thing. That's why World War III won't happen. Is because there's going to be intervention where people are not looking to the news; they're looking up in the skies.
yep.
And people, you know what? The weird thought is like COVID. People will be like, you know what? To hell with all this. I'm taking a month off of work. I'm using all my
Mhm.
sick days. I'm taking because I'm looking up in the sky. I'm like, okay, this whole world is different than what I thought it was. Why do I need to go to work now?
Yep,
You know what I'm saying? Like if
I
if
agree.
thing if Independence Day happens tomorrow, and I see Will Smith flying around F1 fire,
No,
what
not
am I?
Will Smith.
Not Will Smith. Not the
Not Will
real.
Smith.
Not Will Smith. We won't
Not
send him out
him.
there.
No.
But if we start or what's the other Michael B. Jordan? We see Michael B. Jordan,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, or somebody, you know what I'm saying? Tom
Right.
Cruise, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? I'm taking a break. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I hear you. I mean, man, we're gonna have to do this again. I'm not in control of my abilities, but I saw your Instagram. I was like, I'm gonna have that girl on my channel. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? So thank you so much. I know it took us a little while to get it going, but I'm gonna have to get on your calendar again because you're very busy. I know a lot of people are checking you out. We're gonna have to continue this conversation, but I want people to look at what you got going on. So, what's your website and what you got going on for yourself?
my
Um,
main platform is TikTok. So I am on all of my channels except for X, which I'm not really on X.
yeah,
It's Starr Official,
yeah,
SARAHSTARR, and then
mm,
official. There's a lot of spam websites out there asking you for readings. It's not me. I do readings, but you have to message me if you feel in like
nice,
you're driven to it. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and my Facebook. I just finally got connected. So, so
nice.
I try to process my information through there, but I am shadow banned on a lot of
Oh my
things.
God,
So
that means
there's
you're
a
doing something right, girl. That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, I lost my first platform and it was devastating. It was devastating.
I
So I'm
know it
still
hurts.
trying to build back up. I got to I think I'm at 48K on my TikTok. So we're building
Nice,
back up from
nice.
scratch.
Building back better,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and yeah, because I want to say she's the real deal. I can feel people's vibes, and she's the real deal. She has beautiful energy, and there's a lot of fake people out there that say they're doing light readings and they're using chat gpt, or they're just
Yeah.
totally out there. I mean, and this is for everyone across the field. That's why people are jumping ship from a lot of different ways. There's light workers in the community that are false. There's Christians that are talking nonsense, that don't know anything. You talk to them even about simple things like giants, they're like, those don't exist. I'm like,
Right.
bro. So I mean, so definitely check out Sarah Star Official, TikTok, Instagram, and talk to her about her other services. She's doing a lot of things on her website. She's got a lot of things going on. So I'm sure she's got a book in the making pretty soon too.
I do. That's weird that you say that. Everybody keeps asking me.
I
That's so
know.
weird.
Well,
Everybody.
yeah. Well, I was told to throw that out there, so I'm just reminding you.
Okay.
Finish
I know. I
finish
need it. I know.
your book because it's
I do.
important for
I need
humanity.
to.
All right. So, all right. So I'm gonna end the stream here. Love you guys. Sarah, don't go anywhere. But
Thank you.
all right. Peace. All right.